Alright guys, so in the last video we did quite a bit. We implemented React Router, we created our login and register components, at least the UI, and then we created our auth reducer. We created a load user action that will basically check to see if we're logged in with every request, with every time the app loads. So, and we also created a private route so that we can't access the dashboard unless we log in. So now what I want to do is jump into Actions Auth.js and then create an action to actually log in. So we're going to add a couple types as well. So in types, let's add two types here. So one is going to be login underscore success. And then one is going to be login fail. So let's save that and let's go back to auth.js. So under the load user action here, actually what I'll do is copy this because there's a lot that's similar. So we'll just grab that and paste it in. And let's change this. We'll say login user, and we're just going to call this login. Now for this login we don't need to check for a token because we're actually trying to get the token. That's the point of this. So we don't need this get state. Oops, we just want the dispatch. Since there's only one parameter, we can remove the parentheses. We don't want this user loading. We don't want to try to get the token. However, we do want the content type in the headers. We don't want this. Now this is going to take in a username and password, obviously, because we need to validate the user against the back end, and we want to stringify that content. So basically turn it into JSON. So let's say request body. So we'll create a variable called body, set it to JSON.stringify. And we'll just go ahead and create an object here, username and password. Okay, same as doing like, username, password. So now that we have the body, let's go down to our request, which now is going to be to the login, and it's going to be a post request. And right here, we want to pass the body in as a second parameter, and then the config. So this will give us a response. If it's good, then let's fire off login success, and payload will be the res data. If not, then we'll keep the return errors. However, this we're going to change to login underscore fail. Okay, so now we'll save that and let's handle this stuff within our reducer. So we'll go to reducers auth.js and let's bring in login success and login fail. Now login fail is going to do the same exact thing that auth error does. It's just going to remove any tokens and also set everything to null, so we can just simply add that here like this. Okay, so that will do these two will do the same thing. As for the success, let's see, we're going to add that. Let's put that right here. Say case login success. So in that case, we want to set the token that we get, because remember, when we log in successfully, it gives us a token. So we want to store that. So set item, and we want to set token, and then pass in the token, which will be in the action.payload payload.token. So that's the first thing we'll do is set that. Then we want to return our state, and let's return the whole payload. So action.payload, and then we're going to set is authenticated to true because we're now logged in, and make sure that is loading is set to false. All right, so we'll save that. Now, of course, we need a way to call this login action that we created, and that's obviously going to be through the login component. So let's go to components, accounts, login.js, And in order to interact with Redux, of course, we need to bring in connect. So let's go up here and let's bring in connect. Oops, from React Router, not React Router, React Redux. And let's do prop types. And then we need to bring in the login action. So up 2 levels into actions and then auth. We're also going to bring in redirect from React Router DOM, because if we are logged in, there's no sense in being able to go to the login page. We want it to redirect to the dashboard. All right, so let's see. Let's go down the bottom here and let's create our map state to props. All right, now for this I could do auth state.auth, and then I could call this .props.auth.isAuthenticated. But since isAuthenticated is the only thing that I need, I'm actually going to set that as a prop. So isAuthenticated and set it to state.auth.isAuthenticated. All right, and then we're going to export default connect. And let's pass in here map state to props, and then since we're using the login action, we're going to pass that in as well. Okay, and then let's add our prop types real quick. So up here, let's do static prop types, and we have our login action. So that's a function. Oops. And then we have is authenticated, which is a Boolean, which is not going to be required. All right, now obviously we want to fire the action off in the onSubmit. So let's replace this with this.props.login and pass in the username and password, which are stored in the component state. Okay, so that should do it. Let's save. And just double check. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is just redirect if we are logged in. So in the render, I'm just going to put a simple if statement here and say if this.props.isAuthenticated, then let's return redirect to /. All right, and that should do it. Let's save it. Let's reload. Okay, so obviously it's calling load user. We're getting our auth error. So what I want to do is try to log in with someone that doesn't exist. We should get login fail, which you can see right here. And then let's try with John, who does exist, and log in, and we get login success, and we're redirected to the dashboard. So it's doing exactly what it should. And if I try to go back to login, I can't because of this right here. We're authenticated, and you can see that if we go in auth, we have our token stored, we have is authenticated true, and we have our user. So we have access to any of this data. And every time I reload, it calls that load user, right? You can see right here, user loading and then user loaded. The get errors is just firing off because we still can't access the leads. We have to do some stuff later to be able to do that. All right, but we do have login functionality. Now, I think the next step should be to do the log out. Okay, so we don't have a logout link up here. So let's head over to our header. Let's just close some of this stuff up so it doesn't get too confusing. So in header.js, Basically, we want certain links to show if we're logged in and certain ones to show if we're not logged in. So what I'll do is we need to actually check if we're logged in. In order to do that, we need to deal with Redux. So let's import connect. Okay, let's do prop types. And let's also, well, we'll create the logout action after. I just want to at least get the correct links showing, because now that we're logged in, we shouldn't be seeing these. So let's go down here and let's export default connect. Okay, and we want to map state to props because we need access to auth. So auth state.auth, and let's pass this in here. And we'll add it as a prop type. An object. Okay, so now what I'll do is in the render, I'm going to pull out is authenticated and the user from this.props.auth. Okay, so let's say const is authenticated and user. Let's pull that from this.props.auth. Okay, and then I'm going to have two variables that hold the guest links, which is the links that should show if we're not logged in, and the auth links. So let's say const auth links, and for this I'm going to go ahead and grab, let's see, I'm just going to take this UL right here, this whole UL, and I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to put it in here. And let's also create, let's see, we'll save that. We'll also create guest links. And then I'm going to paste that in there as well. Okay, now these are the guest links. We can leave that, but for the auth links, we're going to have, this is going to be a bit different. We're going to have a button to log out. So let's see, we're going to have li, that can stay. However, this is going to be a button, and this is going to have, let's give it a class name of nav-link, as well as btn, btn-info, and btn-sm. And let's do text light. And this is going to say log out. And we're going to add an event to this, but I just want to get it displaying first. So let's go down where the UL was, which was right here. And let's just let's use a ternary operator. So we'll put an expression and we'll say if is authenticated, then show the auth links, else show the guest links. So let's actually, you know what? Is this correct? Button, no, the UL actually went, shoot, where did the UL go? Navbar brand. Let's try that. Okay, so that looks good as far as the logout. Yeah, I think that should be good. All right, so let's see. Let's add functionality to this logout. Now we're going to need an action first. So let's go to Actions Auth.js, and from here, let's go under our login. Say logout user. And actually, we're going to add another type as well. So in types, we want logout success. So I'll change this to logout. Okay, and let's see. Let's actually copy. Let's copy the load user because we need the token in order to log out, because it needs to know which user to log out. So I'm going to copy load user. And then let's paste that in here. Change this to log out. So we need to do this stuff. We don't need the user loading. However, we need to check for the token. And if the token is there, put it in here and then make a request to auth log out. And we actually need to pass in null as a body for this to work. This actually got me stuck for a while, but we need to just pass in null as the data, as the body. All right, and then we're going to dispatch log out success, and we don't need to send anything. So log out success. If there's any errors, then we're just going to do our return errors. All right, so let's save that, and then let's go to our reducer and handle the logout success. So let's go to, where is it? Reducers, auth, and we'll bring in logout success. And all it's going to do is the same as auth error and login fail. It's just going to clear everything out. And of course, on the server side, it's going to destroy that token. So let's say logout success, and there we go. So we'll save this. Now back in our header, we're going to bring that action in. So let's import logout action. Oops, where are we? // actions / auth. We need to add that logout down here. That. Let's add it as a prop type. Prop types dot func. Okay, so let's see where we want to call this. We actually need to create an on click on this button right here, this logout button. So we'll simply say on click equals, and let's call this dot props dot logout, which will call the action. Okay, we don't need to send anything along with it. It should just call it. It should clear everything out. We should be all set. So let's reload, and let me just make sure there's no strange errors. Good. And then let's try it. So we'll click logout. Okay, so it looks like we're getting some errors here. 401 authentication credentials were not provided. They should have been, because we call logout, we get the token, add the token to the header, we call API auth logout, add the config here. Oh, we need to put a /. Keep forgetting that. Let's try that. Reload. No, that didn't work either. Still getting a 401. Let me try and clear my cache. API auth logout null config. I'm not sure what's wrong here. Oh, is it the request? Yes, it is. It's the get. This needs to be a post request. All right, log out. There we go. And you can see down here, fired off logout success. And if we look at our auth now, everything is null and false. Good. So we can now log in and out. Now there's a couple extra things I want to do here. One, when we have a bad login, I want it to tell us that. Like right now, if I do Brad, which doesn't exist, and log in, it doesn't show us anything in the UI. It shows us down here, but normal people aren't going to have their Redux tools open. So what I'll do is, if we take a look at the error, so if we look at errors, message, we have this non-field errors that says incorrect credentials. So remember our alerts component. So we can go into, let's see, where is it? Layouts, alerts.js, and we can actually check for this non-fields errors thing here. So let's go in, it's going to be an error. So after this, where we check for the message, let's actually, we'll just copy one of these if statements. Okay, so we're going to check for error dot message dot, and it's called non underscore field underscore errors, and then we simply want to alert dot error. We can get rid of all this stuff here because we just want to pass in error dot message dot non field errors dot join, which will show this message here. Okay, so let's save that and let's try that out. So now if I reload and I try to log in with someone that doesn't exist, incorrect credentials. Okay, so I don't know, I personally like how we set this error checking up because it's very easy to just simply add an alert just like that. You know, instead of putting it in each individual component and having to deal with the error state, we just have this single alerts component that we deal with, which isn't the prettiest. You could probably make this look a little better, but I think it's fine for now for a small application. Okay, so let's see. Let's actually log back in. Whoops. So John. Okay, so now we're logged in. Another thing I want to do is just show I want to say like hello and then the username up here. So that's in the header. So header.js, where we have our what are they? Auth links. Right? Yeah, we're going to go in auth links, and let's go right above the logout button here. And we're going to put in, let's see how we want to do this. Let's put in a span, because in Bootstrap, if you want to put text, you do a span. And let's do class name of navbar dash text, and then I'm going to put some margin right to push it over, so MR3. And then inside this span, I'm going to put some strong tags, and inside here we can get the user. We have the user right here, so we want to check to see if the user is actually there. So if the user is there, then let's put some backticks and we'll say welcome, and then user dot username, else, then nothing. So we'll save that and reload, and now it says welcome John. Okay, and it will welcome whoever is logged in. Now another thing I want to do to kind of clean up our code a little bit, if we go to our actions and we look at the logout, we're getting the token, setting the headers, and then checking for the token and adding it to the headers. We're doing the same exact thing in load user, right here, getting the token, setting the headers, adding the token. And we're going to be doing this with any routes that are protected. So I'm going to just create a separate function that will handle this. So let's go down, let's actually copy these three parts. So getting it, creating the headers, and adding the token. And we'll go down to the bottom here, and let's say setup config with token. And this is a helper function. So we'll do export, so we can use it in other files as well. Const, we'll call this token config. And this is going to be an arrow function, and it's going to take in get state because we need that to check for the token. And then let's paste in those three things here. And at the end, we simply want to return the config. Like that. All right, so now instead of, let's go up to the logout, which is right here. Instead of doing all this, we can actually now get rid of this, these three steps, and where we have this config right here, we'll just do token config, and we need to just pass in get state, which comes from right here. Okay, so I think it just cleans it up, and we can just copy this token config get state, go up to the load user, get rid of those three parts, and pass that in. And we should be able to do the same thing. So if we reload, everything should still work. Good. All right, so the last thing we have to do is registration. Okay, so we need to be able to register a user. Oh, I shouldn't say the last thing. We have two main things to do: registration, and then we need to send our token to the leads endpoints in order to load them and in order to add them. Okay, those are the two major things we have left. So let's create an action to register a user. Okay, so we need a type for that, or we need two types. We're going to have register success and register fail. So let's copy these down, and we're going to have register success and let's do register fail. So we'll close that up, and let's go to our actions, our auth actions, and let's see, we'll go down below. Let's go above logout and below login. And I'm just gonna copy for register. I'm gonna copy, let's see which one is pretty similar here. We'll copy the login. So this whole login action, I'm gonna copy that and paste that in, and let's change this to register user. Change this to register. Now this is going to take in instead of just passing in a string of username and password, we're going to pass in an object that has a username, password, and email. So we want to destructure that with curly braces. So we'll take username, password, and email, and then let's see, we're going to want to set our headers. Okay, remember we're registering, so no need to check for a token or anything like that. We're registering in order to get a token. We do want to create our request body, so we'll keep this, except we're going to add email to it. Let's add that right here. Just going to make this a little thinner. Okay, now as for the request, we're going to make a post request to auth register and send in the body and the config, and then if it's successful, we'll go ahead and dispatch register success. If not, we're going to return errors, and then we're also going to dispatch register fail. So pretty simple action. Let's save this. Now let's go to our reducer and figure out what we need to do here as far as register and fail. Now basically we already have what we need. We're just going to add to this login success right here. We're going to do the same exact thing if it's a register success. Okay, and that brings it in. This is actually pretty cool. I'm not sure which extension does it. I think it's the ES7 React Redux. But if I add, like, I didn't have register success brought in, but it did it automatically. So if I go down here and I add case register fail, and you'll see that now it brought it in automatically. So that's actually pretty cool. So register fail is going to do the same stuff. Just clear the token, set everything to null and false. So we'll save that. Now, of course, we need to call this register action, and that's going to be done through the register component. So let's head over there. We'll go to accounts, register.js, and we're going to be doing a lot of the same stuff we did in the login. So if I go open the login, we're going to bring in all this stuff here. So we'll go ahead and paste that in, except we're bringing in the register action. All right, and then down at the bottom, it's actually copy from login, this whole thing here. Because if we're logged in, we also want to redirect to the dashboard. There's no need to be able to go to the register page. So we'll copy that, we'll put that in register. Okay, of course we need to change this to register and this, but we're still getting is authenticated as a prop. So we'll add our prop types, which I'll copy from login, static prop types, and we'll put that right here, and we'll just change login to register. All right, now on submit is obviously where we want to call the register method, but remember we have a password and a confirm password, and we want to do that checking here. I don't want to do that checking within the action. So we will be using the create message action in this component. So I'm going to bring that in as well. So let's say create message from action/message. All right, and then inside the on submit, let's get rid of that, and then let's pull from the state password and password 2. All right, and then what we'll do is just a quick check. So if password is not equal to password 2, then we're going to go ahead and say this dot props dot create message, and it's going to be an object. Remember, the message is an object, and we'll just call it passwords not match, and then for the text we'll say passwords do not match. Now in order to use this create message, we also have to bring that in down below, because that's an action like that. All right, so we'll go back up here and let's put an else, and for now we'll just do a console log submit, because I just want to test this out. Now it's going to send this password do not match, but we need to catch it in the alerts. All right, so let's head over to alerts.js, and in the component did update, we want to go down to where the messages are, and whoops, let's go right here, and actually I'll just copy this down, and we're going to check, we're going to say if message dot passwords not match, then we want to alert. It's actually going to be an error form. So alert dot error and message dot passwords not match. Okay, and that should do it. So let's save and let's reload this. And let's just put some stuff in here and not match the passwords. Okay, so let's see. create message was sent, and it's inside our messages. Why is it not getting caught here? So messages, oh, it's password not match. So let's just change that. All right, so let's try that again. We'll reload. Passwords don't match. Good. Now, if they do match, we can close up alerts now. We should be done with that. We should be done with login. So in here, if passwords do match, then we want to call the register action. Now, before we call that, we need to format a new user, which is going to include all this stuff in the state, the username, email, and password. So let's pull out from the state. Actually, you know what? We can do that right up here. So we'll pull out username, email. So basically everything from the state. And then down here, let's create a new user object. And we want email, username, and password. Okay, and then we just want to call this .props.register, which is going to call that register action, and we want to pass in a new user. Remember, it takes in an object with the username, email, and password, and it's catching it right here. Okay, so it's going to catch it. It's going to go ahead and stringify it. It's going to make a request to register, and then determining on if everything is okay, it'll be register success or register fail. If it's register success in our reducer, it's going to add the token, because we get the token back from a registration, and then it's going to just set everything to true. It's going to basically log us in. All right, so there's a couple things that I missed that we need to check, and that is in the actions, I didn't bring in register success and register fail. So we want to make sure we bring those in. And then also, if we look at the register, we're bringing in username, password, and email, right? This is the action. However, if we go in the register component, we sent email, username, password. So let's match that order. So username, password, email. So I'm just gonna say username, password, email. All right, we'll save that. So hopefully this works. Let's reload, and I'm going to try this again. Oops. Okay, so then that still didn't work. Let's see what we got. Register fail is not defined. Yes, it is. Didn't I bring it in? Register fail. Huh, did I not save this? Maybe I didn't save it. Let's try it again. Bad request. Let's check out Redux. Okay, so it's calling register fail. And our message. Oh, a user with that username already exists. So I must have already registered Brad. Okay, so we need to handle this error, obviously. So it's message.username. So let's go into alerts. I mean, that it might have worked for you guys if you didn't already have a user or whatever you entered. So I'm going to go to components, alerts, and let's check for that error. So it's username. That's the key here. So I'm just going to copy one of these, and let's go to the bottom here, and we'll say message.username, And then we don't need to put this stuff here. We just want the error message dot username dot join. Take that away. And that. All right. So now, if I try that again, it should give me an alert saying that username is taken. Okay, so let's try a different one then. Let's say Brad1. I know that's not taken. Okay, so it logged us in. You can see up here. However, we forgot, or I forgot, to redirect in the register if we're logged in. So let's go to register.js. And we just want to do the same thing that we did in the login. So in the render here, let's say if this dot props dot is authenticated, then we want to return redirect to slash. Okay, so that should work. And you can see it redirected us. All right, so now once you register, it'll automatically redirect you. And you can see we're logged in now as Brad1. So I'm sorry about the little hiccup there, guys. Like I said, there's a lot of code here. There really is. So it's not gonna like a clean cookie cutter tutorial. But you know, try to make it the best I can. All right, so the last thing we want to do is we need to be able to add leads and get leads. So we need to change the lead actions a little bit. Let's see, inside lead actions, or actions leads, I should say. And let's just get rid of, or close this stuff up. Now, we're going to need to send along our token. And if you remember, inside of our auth actions here at the bottom, we have this token config function, and we're exporting it so we can bring it in to our leads. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say import token config from ./auth. All right, and now when we go down and we get the leads, let's go ahead and wrap this dispatch, because remember we need that get state to get the token. So we want to pass that in, and let's see, we want to axios.get, and we're going to pass in along with that the token config, and then pass in that get state. Okay, so any routes that are protected, you just want to pass this in. This will send the token along with it. And then I think everything else should be fine. So let's save that and let's reload. Now we haven't added any leads, so it would make sense that none would show. And we're not going to be able to add a lead yet because, again, we need to send the token. We need to send the token for all of these, delete, add, and so on. So for the delete, let's do the same thing. Let's do get token, or what is it? Token conf, I'm sorry, get state, and then we want to pass in token config here. So in the delete, token config, and then pass in get state. Okay, and then this should all be the same. So for the add lead, we want to do the same thing. I want to pass in, why do I keep doing that? Get state. Get state. And then we're adding the lead, so we want to put the config as the last parameter here, which will be token config, pass in get state. All right, let's save this and let's reload. Now, if I open up my console, there's no more 401 error. So it is getting leads, we just don't have any. So let's try to add a lead, and let's open up Redux while we do that. And you can see, yeah, you can see get leads is now getting called instead of the error. So let's just say, I don't know, Kevin Smith. We'll say Kevin at yahoo.com. Contact Kevin on Saturday and submit. So we got add lead action, and if we go down, there's Kevin Smith. All right, let's add one to make sure we can delete. I'll just put whatever. Okay, so now we should be able to delete. So you can see the alerts are working, so delete. Good. Now, if I log out and I log in as someone else, I shouldn't be able to see Kevin Smith because of the way that the back end works. So let's log out, and we'll log in as John. And you can see our lead that we added as Brad1 is not here. So we can go ahead and add a new lead. Let's just say Matt Johnson. We'll say Matt at yahoo.com and submit, and Matt gets added. Okay, and if I log back out, log back in as Brad1. Whoops, wrong password. And now we can only see Kevin, we don't see Matt. All right, guys, so hopefully you enjoyed this series. I know that it's a lot of code. We wrote a lot of code. It took up, what, this is 7 videos that are like 40, 50 minutes a piece. So, you know, hopefully you learned quite a bit in the back end and the front end. And don't worry about it if there's parts of it you don't understand. Just kind of, you know, the parts you don't understand, do some research on. Those tutorials that are in the description are really helpful. They might explain some things that I didn't, but hopefully most of the stuff was pretty clear. And if you made it all the way to the end, congratulations, and I thank you for watching. I really, really appreciate it. All right, so I'll see you in the next video, guys.